Welcome back. So tonight my guest is Dr. Anthony Kwesi Aubynn, but is known as Dr. Tony Aubynn, who is most remembered in the media for his work at the Chamber of Mines and also at the Minerals Commission. Of course, he is now the CEO of the newly formed Petroleum Hub Development Corporation, which is supposed to drive the agenda in the petroleum. Good evening.
Thank you very much, and good evening to you too.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I can say I think I'm doing well. I was at the Pope's funeral at home.
Is it? You watched it?
Yeah, so I was at the Pope's funeral at home.
Yeah. I like this Pope.
Yeah.
Charismatic, genuine guy.
Yeah.
From South America, really good ambassador for the church.
And his concept of leadership.
Correct.
And the fact that he tried to bring, the poor and marginalized as a central theme in Christianity and Catholicism. I thought that was very.
So you are Catholic?
Very much so. My father used to call me when in his nice time.
Yeah.
He would call me Saint Anthony of Padua. You know that everything is cool.
You know, our Catholic parents name us after saints.
Yeah.
So I'm very sure. So he's your patron saint.
So that's why I'm a saint.
I'm also a saint.
Yes.
I'm Saint Bernardino of Siena.
Aha.
Saint Anthony of Padua. But you are from, where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Ghana.
I know.
And first Ghana, second Western region, third Daman and Wase Kropon. I mean one tram. So you see, I'm a pure Wasa, in a sense. My father was a chief of Daman.
Is it?
Yes, Daman, where you have the Daman mine.
Wow.
And then I hold a position there as Abakuma Hine or a champion Hine of Daman at the moment.
Wow.
But my mother's side come from the Kropon side.
Wase
Kropon. One child. Again, that to my mother's side, they also hold a chieftain over there.
Amazing.
So
you're a true blue son of the extractive soil.
Ghana.
Yeah, because Wase Kropong has become emblematic for other reasons, which we'll talk about later. But being a Wasa, and you went to school in Huni Valley.
I went to my second. In fact, I had my primary school at Daman.
Is it?
And then did my secondary at Huni Valley.
Okay.
Did sixth form. In those days, 1 to 5, you do O levels.
Yeah.
And did A level at Takwa Secondary School.
So as for you mining?
I'm a pure.
So Prestia for Prestia Huni Valley.
Yes, Prestia Huni
for
Valley.
1 to 5.
Yes.
And then Takwa for.
Yes, Takwa is I am from for sixth form. And I actually did some of my primary school. In those days, you do form classes and up to form 4. But I did my form 1. Yeah. From where I went to the secondary school. So I went to secondary school far earlier.
Like age 11?
11, yeah. So
wow.
There were some people I taught when I finished sixth form who were my mate. So sometimes they didn't know how to respond to me, whether they should say or Tony or things like that. But it was exciting.
So it's not surprising that some of your life in public service has been in the extractives because you grew up.
Absolutely.
So so when we talk about mining, Galamsey, you know all those things.
Yes.
Because as a child, I'm sure you saw it manifest.
Yes.
Wow.
That's correct.
That's interesting. I will come to Petroleum Hub a bit, but I just wanted some quick thoughts around when you see where your hometown is and what has become of it. Because I was there 2022, the last time. This is after the Apiate. And we went through Wase Kropong. And I saw a lot of mining happening, and in a sense, Wase Kropong has become almost the headquarters of illegal.
You don't want to use what headquarters of any illegal mining. You remember, President Mahama would tell you his story when he said a certain area has become a headquarters. Of course, with a positive sense of illegal mining. He had to. I think he had to pay for it.
Yeah, so let's not go there. But what I saw was a lot of, even close to the roads, there's a lot of mining happening. And I guess it's not surprising to you because you know the history of how this happened. The fact that even it was the Rawlings time that they chose to find a way of formalizing it and all of that. So but what do you make of the way we've not been able to solve it? Because, I mean, yes, this government is doing something, but it's been an intractable problem, isn't it?
Yes, yes, you're right. I have been intimately involved in mining generally, and small-scale mining has normally attracted my interest. So much as I believe that small-scale mining is good for the country in terms of employment and even the value that it gives to people who live in the area, I have often been saddened by what I see and by a failure to stop this activity. And obviously, legalizing small-scale mining, the thinking was that that will put paid to unorganized mining. So, I always say that until the colonial masters came, mining by any form, mining by small scale was not illegal. You could just go and do it, but it was controlled by chiefs. And normally people would not even go and mine. They would go and mine when they have serious debt to clear, or when they were instructed by the chiefs to go and mine. Most of them were farmers. They were tilling the land. So mining was somehow not an activity of even those like Awodia and all those places where mining actually started. It wasn't what they did most of the time. It was when the colonial establishment that actually outlawed mining by
indigenes.
Yes, by Ghanaians. That was the basis of illegal mining, any form of mining that was illegal. However, much as it was outlawed, people were still mining, not to the stage that we see now. I remember in the 80s, people were doing what they called keshe. Keshe was another form of Galamsey. The Galamsey have had different names. And, they were scrapping the surface, and they were not destructive. They were using simple implements like shovels and pickaxes and all that. So its impact on the environment was minimal. But it was growing. It was a growing activity. So in 1979, there was an attempt by the parliament of that time to actually legalize small-scale mining.
This would be Liman.
Liman's time. But it didn't come off. I think there was a discussion in parliament and all that. And then in Rawlings' time, President Rawlings' time, when they were still chasing these illegal miners, occasionally they would go, they called the scatter. So when the police were going there or the military was going there, the alarm would go, information would go, and there's a scatter, and then you run away. But when they ran and the police left, they would come back and do it. So the government at that time realized that, look, Akpeteshi was at a point in time outlawed. But now when law was made around it and regulated, Akpeteshi is now a very respected drink. Some have even converted it into, or added value into alomo bitters and all those things. So they thought to regularize it would be to also control the consumption and the negative effect of that consumption. So I think the framers of the law at that time realized that let's regularize it so we can control it. So that happened. Now my challenge is, now that it has been regularized and people could go and legally go and get your papers and go and do it, this is the time that it's become more destructive. So that is really a challenge.
It is said that the problem is not small scale, small scale. It's more the medium scale, where larger equipment, so chamfan comes in, excavators. So when people were just doing Galamsey, gather and sell, it wasn't that wild.
But that's right.
But it appears that some money came into the middle level. Foreigners got involved, and then it became sort of very, very destructive. Is this correct?
This is partially correct. Between 2004 2006, some people were sent to China to go and study how the Chinese went about with their small-scale mining. I think that was the beginning of the introduction of mechanized mining, mechanized small-scale mining. But by the way, in this country, and that's one of my advocacy, in this country, we don't have medium-scale mining. Even though you have described it rightly, that there is medium-scale going on. But in our categorization, we have small-scale and large-scale. If you look at our laws, there's large-scale, the likes of Goldfields, and then small scale. So the medium, those who, my hometown, I was a Kroponi, when you drive past the town itself, you see a very huge opening. It cannot be small scale mining. It's a medium scale. We don't have laws around medium scale for us to regulate it as such. So they will run to small scale and take advantage of the rules and the goodies that surround small scale mining regulations. So I think that is a problem. And so those people came with equipment. They knew that, now you can even mine with a machine called Shangfang, which is more efficient in terms of getting gold. And then
obviously more destructive to the water body.
Precisely. And then also you had all these excavators, which are for me the most destructive of that. They have made production of gold more efficient in quote, but more destructive. That is how come from 2000 on, if you look at the contribution of small scale mining in Ghana, it was such a infinitesimal, very small. But from 2004 thereabout, it started showing up on the graph, and now it produces about 40%, thanks to, and I say thanks in very
inverted
commerce. Thanks to the use of trommel, the use of shangfans, the use of excavators and mining in water bodies, and destroying the environment. We are producing more gold.
That's very problematic.
Yes, so it's a complex problem.
I know you are not a duty bearer in mining, so my objective for this interview is not to grill you on mining, but to the extent that I need to give two premises. Between 2011 and 2014, you were at the Chamber of Mines.
Yes.
And then between 2014 and 2017, you were the Minerals Commissioner.
Yeah.
And then in 2024, you were the NDC lead on mining policy.
That's correct.
To that extent, I'll ask you a few questions about mining before I come to Petroleum Hub.
You should have told me you'd be asking me questions about mining.
That's why I'm giving you the premise. It's legitimate.
Yeah, okay.
I guess the biggest question is, has the NDC government in 4 months been true to its promise on quelling illegal, destructive mining based on what you see? And I know the promise was there. Ban new mining activities, amend the mineral and mining law to impose severe punishment, decentralize regulatory bodies. The biggest question is LI 2462 has not been repealed, which was a big thing the NDC said they would do. And as we speak today, 28th April, that law has not been repealed.
Well, I think that the government is on course in the area of small-scale mining, even if you think that it has not been as fast as you expect. But don't forget that this problem has been age-old. It's been here for a very long time. So 4 months certainly is too short a period for you to say that it succeeded in addressing the challenge or not. I am sure that, you see, the LI 2462, I support the idea that it should be repealed, or it should be completely repealed and maybe a new law brought in. But if you read the law very carefully and compare it with the policy that existed before then, the danger, the dagger in that law is the fact that it allows the minister to allow for mining in the forests. You see, in the old policies, it didn't completely ban mining in the forest, but it made it such a difficult enterprise. If you wanted to mine in the forest, for instance, and in the country, there were only few mining companies that had concessions to mine in the forest, notably Chirano. And even with Chirano, there were clear requirements of what to do to get the concession first and foremost. And secondly, even in the actual mining, you can mine in the forest which has been given to you, but you cannot do anything. All your processing equipment and all that must be outside the forest. And you were required to pay beyond the regular, the royalties and all that. So there was such an eye on that. There was a special committee that looked at those who were mining in the forest.
All right.
So now to make an omnibus statement that the minister can now grant the license or permit for people to mine in the forest. That was the problem. That was
which was exploited to allow some companies to be giving different licenses.
Precisely.
So the NDC government has said, and I know the Minister for Environment has even been on this show, said that he is initiating a process to amend the LI so that the president's ability to allow mining in the forest reserve is removed. And a lot of people think that's a cop-out because the problem is not the president. The problem is the law allowing the minister to grant the license.
Yes.
So a lot of people think that's double speak because if you you repeal, why are you amending?
Okay, so I don't know much in that line, but if you were to amend that to the point where it was before the law was passed, that is because this law was really the policies at that time that were added on. If that side of the addition were taken, you go back to the status quo before the new law was passed. However, because we said we're going to repeal it, it may have been very simple to say, okay, look, I've repealed it. But of course, you would also have to make another law to replace it, and it will be Parliament's time.
So are you saying that in the absence of the law, do we suffer anything? Is the law sort of, because there are other laws that the Minerals Commission works with, right? Yeah. So if the law is bad and you repeal it, what do you need another law to do?
No. Mining in the forest, you see, not more than 2% of the country would be, of the forest in this country would be allowed to mine.
Okay.
So that 2%, not more than 2%, only 2% in total of our forests would be allowed to mine. But so if those policies there, which did not create any problem, were maintained, we wouldn't have been talking now. But because a law was passed to say that now the minister can grant.
That is the problem.
That's the problem.
Which is why we are asking it to be repealed in its entirety.
I mean, that I have no strong opinion.
I actually want you to say to me that you support the repeal because
no, I support
you are one of the most informed NDC people on mining in Ghana.
I support the repeal
completely.
Yes, but the problem is that when you repeal,
yes,
you are likely to make another law or policy to allow some form of mining.
And we can all have that law together. Media, civil society, experts, we can put a law together.
So that my position is that yes, repeal is fine. Because that's what we said we're going to do.
100%.
So repeal is.
Do you think we need a state of emergency in the dealing with Galamsey?
State of emergency, I don't know if we need that, but we should have a way of stopping illegal mining. We have all the arsenals to do that, and I think the government is doing that. I think the minister is strenuously doing that. Sometimes he becomes even emotional about what he's doing because of the gravity of the situation he sees. So I think we have the arsenal, we have the resources to stop, or not to stop, because you are not likely to stop crime 100%, but to reduce it in a way that people can live with. And I think the worst of it all, and I've said it, I wrote about it in 2009, so it's not a new thing. The worst of it all is the involvement of politicians in this business. It becomes so difficult to resolve when you have politicians, some of whom are in very serious positions, very leading positions involved. You cannot successfully push them out. That's how come I think the president at a point in time said Akwanta Mining was not doing anything illegal, even though the fact spoke otherwise.
All right.
So I think.
Let me ask you my last question on mining. The Damine, because that's your hometown. NDC had been pushing for what they call meaningful local participation and ownership in Ghana's resources. So when the Daman opportunity came for renewal, they initially said they were not going to renew the license, and then there's been some sort of meeting of minds to transition. As an indigenous of Damine, with all the knowledge you have, and based on what NDC says they want to do in terms of their overall vision for mining, do you think that the route that has been chosen is the best route?
I think as a country, and I've said it before, nothing I say now is new. I think we have been operating some side of Goggisberg economy, and in mining, we're still operating post-structural adjustment mining system. Policies were made to fit into the requirement of structural adjustment, and I'm sure you remember that in the 80s when Ghana needed to recover. Ghana's economy was in tatters, and everything was helter-skelter, and we needed to, at that time, reset the economy. So we went in for IMF and World Bank monies and all that. So the policies at that time were more structural adjustment. So our mining industry was revitalized largely under structural adjustment. I think we've gone past structural adjustment. So we couldn't still be using the same policies on the structural adjustment now. And that's the way I see it. And so Ghana would have to adjust the way it handles the mineral economy. And I believe that my personal preference has been the model in Botswana. The Botswana model is that the state has interest in the mines, especially, and the state is choosy. It chooses which mine it thinks is going to get better returns, and then invest in it. If I want to go to, they have this Botswana, which is the main diamond company there. Government has, I think, 51%, and then the private sector has, I think, 49%. If I or 50-50, but I think government has about 51%. Now, government 51% is not freeholding. It's not freehold. It's not, like 10% freehold. No, it is your skin is in the pie. Government skin is in the in the game, and that the mine is run professionally. It is not manned by the chairman of a party or the secretary of a party. It is manned professionally, even if it means you should hire a human resource from outside the country, they would hire and get the benefit of that. So it is like going to business, doing business, but government being a shareholder and government staying out for the business to run. And so you get the benefit. If you look at, if we had done that, now mining gold, an ounce of gold is selling at over 3,400 or 3,000, getting to 4,000. Some people are predicting that it will soon be 4,000. So you could get the margin, you could get the benefit that comes with it. So I am looking at some situation where government would rather put its skin in the pie, get in big, and then, but not interfere with the management and running of the industry,
So they have a large stake, but private people can run it. Yes. But government will definitely benefit from the profit and all of those.
So that is my model. The model, I mean, I am not...
As against complete nationalization.
Nationalization appears not to be a very somebody would say, romantic word. Nationalization is like taking over because of being... the
resources for your country.
If a local company can run it, why not? If a local company can run it, I have no problem at all. That's what it should do, because that's where the benefit stays here. Now, but where we do not have local companies that can fully run, we can still partner. We are all talking about partnership. You can still partner. Government 50% or 52%, and then some other entity or entities having a rest.
So is this transitional demand deal the way to go? Ghana Goldfields, Ghana and Goldfields.
A lot of thoughts have gone into that. So I'm not sure if the benefit was not seen, there will be any attempt to do that.
You are being cautious.
And I believe nobody has traveled that line before. So you have to be cautious. And for me, my model would be, yes, government should come in, because you spread the risk too. You spread the risk. If government has let's say, because government want to be at the center of it, 51%, 50-something%, and then you give the other to some people. Yeah.
We'll come back and talk about the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation. We spent the first few minutes talking about mining. Point of view tonight is Dr. Tony Aubynn, who's the CEO of the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation. We'll get into that when we come back, plus some football. Stay with us.